my name is Fox Martin. I'm in the 7th grade in Nettelhorst Elementary School in Chicago, Illinois. My invention is the gliding thermostat. My invention solves the problem of heterogeneous heating and housing. I found my problem while playing games and having cold fingers, which impacts performance negatively. I chose this problem because it impacts me, my friends, and my family. The research I did was through a Google form. I sent a Google form out to my family, my friends, my teachers, and my classmates. The sources that I used were Google Forms, my classmates, my teachers, my friends, and my family. The people that were affected was most people who answered the form, this being my friends, classmates, teachers, and family. Most of them said that they knew someone else or they themselves were affected by heterogeneous heating in their housing. Similar things to my invention don't really exist. There was nothing that was very similar, the most similar thing being handheld thermal cameras that you use by yourself. I didn't need to do anything to my invention because it was already different enough. The different solutions that I came up with were this and this only. I came up with this first and didn't really have any other ideas, and I thought this was good enough to continue with. This invention solves the problem of heterogeneous heating and housing by flying around with a thermal sensor scanning for heterogeneous heating. When it senses heating that's either above or below the set temperature, it would send a signal to flaps that are positioned in your air ducts. These flaps would either open or shut to allow air to come through or to block the airflow to the certain area. The target audience is people who own homes in the U.S. These people especially who live in older, maybe even draftier houses. The invention works by flying and taking the temperature, then sending it back to smart home devices, flaps, and phones. This is my first prototype. This prototype is just a drone that I made out of clay. It has propellers here, 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 and here. This is the protective cage so that if the drone either crashes or is attacked by, say, a cat or a dog, it would keep that animal and the drone safe. This is the center of the drone where all the components would be. Up here is where the thermal sensor would be, right in this little disc. This is my last prototype. This is a working thermal sensor. So up here, this pink right there is the thermal sensor itself. This is the readout of the thermal sensor. This is where I change the set temperature. Then it would send a signal through here into what are called Arduinos. These can be programmed using code on your computer. Then it would send, using this and the servo, it would either toggle on or off air conditioning. This bit right here is called the cloud bit. It sadly is no longer supported, but in theory, what it would do is send information from this circuit to the flaps that would be in air ducts and to phones and smart home devices. My invention would be made of either aluminum, plastic, or carbon fiber. I chose these materials because they would all be lightweight and materials like aluminum and plastic would be relatively inexpensive. The changes made based on tests were I removed the cloud bit in my circuit because, like I said earlier, it is no longer supported and so does make some issues with the circuit, such as certain things would just start to malfunction or the numbered displays would just go up and down in scales without actually reading accurate temperature. The feedback I only got from my parents because of COVID-19 restrictions. They both thought that I had a cool invention idea and that the circuit that I made was awesome. The challenge that I had was an initial lack of ideas. I struggled to come up with the idea of the drone, and I also struggled to come up with the problem that I would solve for invention convention. The circuit had issues, such as I was originally using this style of power, which is a USB, micro USB, so it plugs into a computer or to the wall. But that obviously wouldn't work for a drone, so I needed to switch to battery power. I also had issues with the circuit, which I needed to reroute. The favorite part of my invention is probably the circuit that I made. I think that it is very cool, and I'm really proud of making it. What I would improve is the affordability of the drone and the easiness to set up. I think that both of those are intertwined, because if you want to buy this drone and set it up, you'd need to put the flaps in your ducts that would help control the air, and those flaps would go near the furnace, and that would probably require you hiring a professional who knows how to arrange that stuff so that you could do that without damaging your furnace. I also think that it would be a rather expensive drone to make. I learned that even if things don't work, and if you're struggling at first, you should just keep going because you'll eventually figure it out. I also learned more about how sensors and systems like this work based on input and then a check. Is it higher or lower than the set value? And if it is, what does it do? Thank you for watching this video. That is all for my presentation.